Dick, a very good evening and thanks for your time. You heard what the President had to say,
evening.
But put that next to what we heard from the Finance Minister yesterday, and it certainly seems to be that they're speaking, I don't know, two different languages, two different ideas there?
Yeah, the action or the proposed plan of Tito Mboweni doesn't fit with the words of Cyril Ramaphosa, the President, no. So, because what was tabled yesterday, the midterm budget, it is an austerity budget, and it will not help in South Africa, as it hasn't helped in any other country. You can't increase employment by cutting in government expenditure, as Tito Mboweni and the Treasury put forward yesterday.
So just explain to us further, Dick, how you see these austerity measures affecting the poor, how this makes this not a pro-poor mini-budget that we heard yesterday.
Well, there will be cut in infrastructure projects, for example, and that means that social infrastructure build-out like housing or sanitation or water or whatever will not proceed as previously envisaged. And so we can expect to have more social service delivery protests, for example. And I mean, it's even admitted in the text of the midterm budget. So what the Treasury is doing is that they are using the main national budget and the tax revenue to pay off Eskom's debt. So when the midterm budget set out that they are increasing expenditure with 1.2%, something like that, in reality it's a cut with about 1% in government expenditure, because in this increase they are speaking of, they are including for the next year and for this year, they are including tens of billions of rand in support to Eskom, and that's only going to paying off the debt of Eskom. It's not going out to the economy and increasing economic demand. I mean, in fact, even the word in economic literature, you find the word aggregate demand, but this concept doesn't even appear in the midterm budget. So if the government cut its expenditure, and government's expenditure comprises 1/3 of the production of goods and service, of demand in the economy, then you are bound almost to provoke a recession. And if you do that, then unemployment will increase even further. So, yeah, that's the situation.
Right. So, Dick, what would you say to those who argue that, you know, Eskom seems to be one of the main things that is dragging down the country's economy? It will be what Moody's will be looking at. Eskom has been the bugbear for us. And if they say that if we don't sort this out, yes, we are all going to suffer anyway. So what would you say to them if they say we have to put this into Eskom for the greater good?
Yeah, I agree with that. You have to. You can't let Eskom go bankrupt or anything like that. You can't get the lights go out. Then you can't have any news in ENCA. There will be no electricity. But I mean, should you save Eskom and from the national budget, or should you use the funds that are at the disposal of the government? And as AIDC, we have been speaking for a long time about the large surpluses in the government employee pension fund or in the UIF. And if you look at the Eskom annual report for 2019, then you will see that over a quarter, over 25% of the debt of Eskom, in fact, is debt to other units in the government. It is to the unemployment insurance fund, it is to the government employee pension fund, and so on. And you can use this money instead of buying from the financial industry, which is happening now. So that is a very important point to make. You shouldn't finance and bail out the state-owned companies from the national budget if you have other funds to your disposal.
But then wouldn't they be
PIC,
facing other problems, Dick? Wouldn't they be facing other problems when it comes to now using those pensions? Wouldn't it be putting them at risk?
No, it wouldn't. Today, the government employee pension fund is running with a surplus of almost 50 billion per year, and the unemployment insurance fund, strangely enough, is running with a surplus of 10 billion per year, despite that official employment is 29%, but in reality, unemployment is 40%, something like that. So you don't need to profit maximize, so to speak, the investments of these funds. Instead, you shouldn't bail out Eskom with cutting funding for schools, hospitals, social infrastructure. You must use the funds at your disposal. But it's not even mentioned in the Treasury's report. And now they are going for austerity, and we are scared that it will provoke a recession, especially since they also speak about the global recession next year. And the whole, I mean, Tito Mboweni said in his budget speech that this is also a discussion document before the budget review in February. Yeah. And we hope so, because it is the fundamental paradigm that the Treasury, the failed paradigm that the Treasury is working within, that has to be questioned now. There will be no export-led growth in this situation. You have to build domestic demand, and important factor in this demand is government spending. But I mean, another important factor is the wage levels in the private sector, which also have been going down. So that is the structural problem in South African economy. There's no economic demand in the economy. It's strangled, and it's strangled by profit shifting also. So the only thing one can say is good in the budget, in the midterm budget, was the 1 billion extra to the South African Revenue Service. We hope it will be taken care of, as well as the 1.2 billion to the National Prosecution Authority, because you have to root out corruption. You can only do that if you take those culprits into court and to prosecute people who are responsible.
Thanks very much for that, Dick Forslund, Senior Economist at the Alternative Information and Development Centre.